Muslims have told me repeatedly that they will bear their own sin. This is precisely why I say there's no atonement or hope in Islam. But I want to look and see what the Quran says about sins. We're going to look in Surah chapter 29, verse 12. It says, "Those who disbelieve say to those who believe, 'Follow our way, and we will indeed bear your sins.' They cannot bear anything of their sins. Indeed, they truly are liars." So here Allah is saying that nobody can bear their own sins except themselves. So that seems fair enough. But the problem comes when you look in the next verse, in verse 13 of chapter 29. It says, "But they will indeed bear their own burden and the burden besides their own, and they will indeed be asked on the day of resurrection about what they invented." Did you notice what it said? It said they will bear their burden and the burden besides their own. So here in verse 13 it says that people will bear other people's sins. So what do we have here? We have a contradiction, because in verse 12 it says nobody will bear anybody else's sin, but in verse 13 we see that people will bear other people's burdens. But I want to also look at the Sahih collection, in specifically Sahih Muslim 2767b, and of course you can look in the description box for this. It says Abu Barda reported on the authority of his father that Allah's apostle said, "No Muslim would die, but Allah would admit in his stead a Jew or a Christian in hellfire." So here, Allah allows the Muslim to place their sins on Jews and Christians. That's why the Jews and Christians are sent to hell, to bear the burdens of the Muslims. And if we look in Sahih Muslim 2767d, it says Abu Barda reported Allah's messenger as saying, "There would come people among Muslims on the day of resurrection with as heavy sins as a mountain, and Allah would forgive them, and he would place in their stead the Jews and the Christians." So once again, Allah is saying that the Jews and the Christians will bear the sins of the Muslims. So what do we have here? We have the Quran contradicting itself within one verse of itself, and then we have Allah saying that Jews and Christians will bear the sins of the Muslims. So what do we conclude? We conclude the Quran contradicts itself, and the Jews and Christians will, according to the Islamic theology, bear the sins of other people.